A first alert weather update for you right now at 1 a.m. Hurricane Helene, now the strongest hurricane on record to slam into Florida's Big Bend. I'm Tracy Hutchins.
And I'm Blair Miller. Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida as a Category 4 storm. And we are also now learning that 2 people died after a possible tornado hit in South Georgia.
And in northwest Atlanta, this new video into the First Alert Weather Center showing flooding along Woodward Way. This is right on Peachtree Creek. You could barely see where the road ends and the water begins. This is a flash flood warning. This is all happening as this flash flood warning is in place for parts of our area. Let's check in with First Alert meteorologist Fred Campagna.
And Fred, we've just learned about some evacuations underway in northeast Atlanta.
And understandable as to why, Blair and Tracy, because Peachtree Creek right now, parts of it anyway, are at near record levels, and we still have a lot more rain to come. So a considerable flash flood warning is in effect right now, right around the perimeter and inside the perimeter. And all of these other green boxes that you see on the map, outlines, those are flash flood warnings. So I would say more than half of us right now are under flash flood warnings, and we're going to continue to see more of that. We have had several flash flood reports come in, primarily from inside the perimeter. Let's go down to where the storm is right now, because we just got an update from the National Hurricane Center. Winds of 110 miles per hour, so very strong Category 2 storm right now as the storm is crossing into Georgia. So this was anticipated. As a matter of fact, Valdosta right now appears to be in the eye of the hurricane that is picking up forward speed, moving north-northeast right now at 26 miles per hour. Let's take a look at some of the wind gusts that we're finding at this point. Still a lot of wind on the backside of the storm. You can see that Perry gusting to 76 after hitting near triple digits, 99 miles per hour a couple of hours ago. Valdosta right now is gusting to 62. Up in Albany, starting to see some wind gusts 35. Waycross near 50 miles an hour. And the wind field for this storm is huge. So Gainesville and Jacksonville right now are both gusting to 63 miles per hour. So the eastern side of this storm is absolutely nasty. And that's where places like Eatonton and Athens and up into the northeast Georgia mountains may be on the eastern side of the center of the storm as it moves to the north. We are starting to find now some of these rain bands that are coming in are carrying a little bit of wind with them and some gusts to around 30 miles an hour. Because the ground is so saturated, it may not take much more than 40 mile per hour wind gusts to start downing some trees, and we are going to see gusts much higher than that late tonight and early tomorrow. Notice how 3 o'clock in the morning, same story, waves of rain coming in. 5 o'clock in the morning, we start to see the center of that storm lifting to the north. So we still have a lot of heavy rain that we're dealing with. This is the back edge of the storm, though, that's coming through the Atlanta metro area. It is around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning that I expect the strongest gusts to occur in West Georgia and into a good chunk of the metro. And at that time, those wind gusts are going to be coming in out of the west-northwest as the storm lifts to the north. Rain winding down south of I-20 by about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. North of I-20, it continues a little bit longer, but the storm is moving to the north, so it's not going to last too much longer. We just saw those gusts near 30 miles per hour right now, but what will they be like as we go through the next few hours? Well, we may begin to see within the next hour, 90 minutes or so, some gusts approaching 50 miles per hour as you get east of Atlanta. And then by 4 o'clock in the morning, Athens gusting to near 60, Eatonton over 50, Gainesville over 50, Helene over 50. Some gusts near 40 are possible at that point as we start to see some rain bands moving into West Georgia and into the metro. But again, I think the peak wind gusts in the metro will not happen until about between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning. 60 mile per hour gusts at 6 o'clock in the morning in Athens. And there you go with that those strong winds coming into the metro around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and continuing 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning as you go farther off to the north. When will the winds lighten up? Well, it'll still be pretty windy for us at noon tomorrow with occasional gusts in the 30 to 40 mile per hour range. We're going to talk much more about the weather ahead during this update. Blair and Tracy?
Fred, thank you. And remember, you can count on Atlanta News First as Hurricane Helene makes its way across our area. If you lose power, you can still get our First Alert forecast on our Atlanta News First weather app. And we're counting on you to send us pictures and videos, if you can do so safely, of the storm activity and the damage. You can text those straight to the number on your screen, 470-777-WANF.
For now, we are going to send you back to regular programming on Atlanta News First, but our live First Alert weather coverage of Hurricane Helene will continue now on ANF Plus, which you can stream live on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and on your smartphones.
Thanks for joining us here on ANF Plus for continuing First Alert weather coverage. Hurricane Helene, now the strongest hurricane on record to slam into Florida's Big Bend. I'm Tracy Hutchins.
And I'm Blair Miller. Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida as a Category 4 storm. We're now learning that 2 people died after a possible tornado hit in South Georgia.
Well, right now there's currently a flash flood warning for parts of our area. We do want to check in with First Alert meteorologist Fred Campagna. And Fred, this warning will be in effect for a while.
It is going to be, Tracy, because of the fact that the rain is still pouring down. Now we're starting to see rainfall totals over 8 inches for the entire duration of the storm. Goes back to yesterday, and now even 9 inches as you go south of Atlanta. So this purple shaded area getting close to 10 inches of rain so far, and a lot more rain is on the way. We're still finding a lot of heavy downpours throughout the metro area. First Alert meteorologist Patrick Pete is with me in the Weather Center, keeping an eye on everything. We're going to check in with Patrick in just a second because those power outage numbers are starting to creep up just a little bit in our area. So that's another thing, yet another thing that we are starting to get concerned about. At this point, the power outages have been widely scattered, isolated almost. But as we start to see these bands move in, they're going to carry with them some wind, so that wind will start to increase, and with the ground so saturated, it's not going to take much to take down some trees. So the First Alert radar is absolutely covered up right now. Again, we've been seeing these reports, and we showed you the video earlier on of the flooding that is happening around the Peachtree Creek area, other flood-prone areas of Atlanta, inside the perimeter. That's where most of these flood reports have come from. At last check here, with just within the last few minutes, the storm is centered basically over Valdosta. It has winds of 110 miles per hour and is moving to the north-northeast at 26 miles per hour. The storm is going to gradually weaken overnight to a tropical storm as it passes by Atlanta. But this storm has a ton of wind with it, and for a great distance away from the center of it. Notice how the winds are stronger right now in Gainesville and in Jacksonville than they are in Valdosta at about 62 miles an hour. And again, our winds are starting to increase. We're seeing 30-mile-per-hour gusts. It won't be long, next hour or two, before east of Atlanta starts seeing wind gusts between 40 and 50 miles an hour. And when that happens, we're going to see the power outages numbers really starting to tick up. So First Alert meteorologist Patrick Pete with me here. Patrick, what are we seeing right now as far as those power outages go? I can see some colors on that map behind you. Not a good sign.
A lot of folks, thousands of folks right now without power, and that has been the case for the bulk of the evening, Fred. First Alert Radar has a lot of different capabilities. One of those capabilities, we're being able to tap into outages. So we can see whenever folks start to lose power, these colors start to lighten up. And right now we're seeing that happen. Right now in Fulton County, about 7,500 people without power. DeKalb County has been the hot spot all evening. You know, we brought you some video during the newscast about a couple of sinkholes that have happened there. So they've been dealing with the flooding. The winds have been relatively light compared to where they're going to be as we head into the evening, but they're also now dealing with power outages. And that's where the bulk of our power outages are right now. About 12,000 customers without power in DeKalb County. Next door in Gwinnett County, those outages have increased too over the course of the last hour. 2,000 people without power, 2,500 people in Hall County without power, and out in Athens, the number's been fluctuating a little bit. Remember, that's the place where they've been seeing a decent breeze for the last couple of hours. That number was at about 1,000 people without power. It is down to 200. We fully expect these numbers to continue to fluctuate as we head through the next few hours because those winds for all of us will gradually increase. We're talking about gusting upwards of 30 miles per hour as we head through the next 90 minutes or so. But it's really going to be that 5 to 7 time frame where a lot of folks are really going to start to see those winds increasing. And that's what we're thinking about. We're going going to see here in Atlanta, but everybody isn't in Atlanta. So I want to break down Helene's winds peak gusts, what we expect to see across our region. If you're in the far western part, you're talking 30 to 50 miles per hour wind gusts max. So that will be tropical storm force wind gusts. That's why you're under a tropical storm warning. Inside of a bulk metro Atlanta, it's going to be 40 to 60 miles per hour wind gusts. But the further east and the further south you are, that's where those wind gusts will just be almost unbearable. We're talking 60 to nearly 80 miles per hour wind gusts. I know that we've seen a lot of rain. We're starting to see those flood warnings come in. And the flood warnings for me, Fred, are the thing that, obviously it's the precursor, but considering that most locations have picked up 7, 8, we actually had record rainfall today here in Atlanta. We picked up over 3.5 inches of rain. The record was nearly 2.5. So we're well above that. And you combine that with over 3 inches yesterday. The bulk of this system, the meat of this system, where the heaviest downpours, the strongest winds are located, they're not even here yet. And that's why the language is elevated for folks to just be very careful, but be very cautious. Hopefully you have the First Alert Weather app downloaded on your phone. Turn the alerts on. It will notify you if you get a warning. If it starts buzzing and telling you something is up, you probably need to at least wake up and take action.
Yeah, that's a great point, Patrick. Talking about your phone on the charger, which I'm sure a lot of you have it, and also not on silent if you do decide to get some sleep overnight tonight, because we have seen considerable flash flood warnings inside the perimeter. A considerable flash flood warning means that it is an unusually bad flash flood event that is happening, and that is what's occurring right now inside the perimeter in metro Atlanta, and many other spots are seeing flash flooding as area rivers and creeks and streams continue to rise. So this is not just poor drainage flooding, this is around some of our bigger rivers and creeks that are rising very quickly after all the rain that we have seen. And to think, most of us were either abnormally dry or in a drought. That's going to be wiped away. I mean, this is just way too much rain, too soon for us. We wanted to see the drought come to an end, but absolutely not in this fashion. So by 5 o'clock in the morning, heavy rain bands to the west. We've got the storm itself starting to move up into our area at that point, continuing to the north. This is when the wind is just going to be cranking in Athens and in Gainesville. Northeast Georgia mountains. This is going to be a devastating storm up that way, because I think we're going to see 60, 70, maybe even a couple of 80 mile per hour wind gusts at the higher elevations to go along with 6, 8, 10 inches of rain in this area. So flash flooding, lots of tree damage. And on the backside of the storm right in here, the computer models are projecting that we're going to see gusts of at least 45 or 50 miles per hour coming through during those early morning hours. In fact, we continue to look at the wind gust map to see this updating minute by minute as new information comes into the First Alert Weather Center. And notice how our forecast wind gusts start to increase over the eastern part of our area. And this is where I'm most concerned for a historic storm in terms of the amount of wind damage that we're going to see. Now, we're talking about our viewing area, Athens, Eatonton, we end just east of there. But you go down to Augusta, I think Augusta is going to see wind gusts over 80 miles an hour from this storm and see incredible damage as the storm plows through overnight tonight. Notice how by 4 o'clock in the morning, still not a lot of wind happening in the Atlanta area, but it's as the storm lifts to the north. These are easterly winds, which are really strong on the northern side and eastern side of the storm. But as the storm lifts north, these start to become westerly winds here. And this is where our strongest winds are going to happen in the metro area, or when they'll happen, is about 7 o'clock or so in the morning. So right around sunrise, give or take. If you live in a northern suburb, it's probably going to be a little bit later. If you live in a southern suburb, you head down to around Griffin area, Hampton area, it's probably going to be a little bit earlier in the day that it happens. And notice how strong the winds are all the way out to Eatonton. 60+ mile per hour winds, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, starting to see those strong winds lift to the north. So I think there's a good chance that almost all of us see winds that are over 50 miles per hour, at least peak gusts. Patrick?
Hey, Fred, I'm just getting some new information, chatting with some of our partners with the National Weather Service. There are actually some reports that are starting to come in actively at this moment that someone is yelling for help in the vicinity of Nancy Creek and Rickenbacker off of Rickenbacker Way. 911 has already been notified and help is on the way. There are also reports in that same area off of North Fork Peachtree of about 5 feet of water in the backyard off of Victor Road. So there are some reports of water starting to collect. This considerable flash flood warning that we've been telling you all about is something that is just starting to begin. I know that it may appear that we have handled the water well since we've had 7 inches essentially over the course of the last couple of days, and some locations have picked up nearly 9 inches already. We have that confirmed in places like Lamar County. Our concern, number one, is in this vicinity where water is piling up. Once again, it's in the backyard off of Victor Road in the vicinity of North Fork Peachtree, and obviously with that call for help that people are hearing in that vicinity of Nancy Creek at Rickenbacker. So some very active rescues appear to be underway, and this isn't the first time we've actually heard this is the same neighborhood where there were evacuations that were beginning to happen because of water collecting. So our thoughts for sure with those folks.
It's a very concerning update, Patrick, and unfortunately, this is a situation where it's going to get worse before it gets better, because the rain is not going to let up for several more hours. I would say we have 5-6 hours of rain left at a minimum in the Atlanta metro area, and it's rain that's very heavy at times. One thing you may have noticed, if you were outside earlier, it was actually a little bit cooler than it is outside right now. So we're starting to get more of a tropical feel. There's just more and more moisture in the air. So these downpours that come through, yes, they'll be in bands that are moving as opposed to being stationary, but the downpours that come through during the overnight hours, they are going to be even heavier, with the potential for 2 or 3 inches of rain per hour rate. With the rain that comes pouring down, then you factor in the wind. So this is a scenario, Blair and Tracy, that we've been warning of in the First Alert Weather Center all week long. And there are some forecasts that you just don't want to see pan out. This is definitely one of them. Unfortunately, it is panning out the way that we feared that it would, really. So we did our best to prepare people. Hopefully you've taken as many precautions as you can, and people can stay safe during these overnight hours.
Yeah, Fred, we are certainly hoping that's the case. In the meantime, that alert that Patrick got, we are working on sending an Atlanta News First crew to check that out, and hopefully everyone is okay. So we're going to see what's happening in that area where we apparently may have heard someone call for help, or someone in that area heard those calls for help. In the meantime, we're talking about massive, massive amounts of rain. That is causing...
We have a long way to go.
Yeah, we have a long way. Right. We are not nearly close to the end just yet. And that's, causing a lot of roadways to flood because of the heavy downpours. There's a major roadway that is flooded. It left vehicles stranded out there. Those vehicles had to be towed away. And that's one of the things that we're covering right now.
Yeah, and we're going to see more scenes like this play out. It's 1:18 in the morning, and more people, hopefully heeding these warnings, but the people who've been out there tonight certainly facing the thick of it. Let's bring in Atlanta News First reporter Blake Devine, who's live in the First Alert Tracker. Blake, we know you've been out there. You've seen cars left in the water, now being towed away.
Yes, so Blair and Tracy, we're in Sandy Springs where the Windsor Parkway Bridge over Nancy Creek between the Northland and Peachtree Dunwoody Road are currently closed off due to flooding. We're going to take a look at this picture right now that was posted from the Sandy Springs social media account showing what it looks like on that bridge as we're talking. A lot of flooding. We've gotten so much rain over the last few hours. And then I want to show you something right now. This is a house in Sandy Springs. What we're looking at is somebody's driveway, which has been completely flooded. And we're talking about 4 to 5 feet of water. And you see the deck out back there. We believe there may be a car in the garage. This has all happened this evening. This just shows the magnitude of rain and floodwater, which we're talking about all night long. That house right there is completely flooded as far as the first level of that home. Obviously, there are some people home as we speak. They're kind of figuring out what they're going to do and how they're going to handle this situation, but we'll continue to keep you updated here live in Sandy Springs, where they've seen a lot of rain.
And Blake, before you go, can you tell us, can you see those people? Are they on the deck? Are they on the front porch? Are they signaling for help? Is there, because it looks like maybe the basement area may be flooded, so you can actively see those people who live in that home.
Yeah, it looks like they are, there's a person kind of looking through the window right now. We saw them kind of grabbing some supplies from a house, or somebody kind of pulled up to the house earlier. The good news, nobody is in distress. It seems like they're all on the second elevated floor. So everyone seems to be safe at this time. Now, I'm not sure about the damage below, but I assume it's pretty substantial at this time.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the level of water there, it looks like it's pretty high up on that garage, and right below that deck, that is a significant situation that is unfolding right in front of where Blake Devine is right now. And as our meteorologists have been pointing out, this was one of the chief concerns. You have the flooding, but then what would that cause to some of the trees, to knock down power lines? Two major issues now playing out right in front of us.
And the thing is, you know, you have residences that don't have to necessarily be right next to a creek to experience flooding like this. You know, maybe some water has been redirected from someplace else, and this kind of ends up in their yard, turning, you know, as we often say, you know, streets into rivers, and that's really what's kind of happened to their yard here. You hate to see that. But we do have our Blake Devine out there, and he's keeping an eye on that home, and we are hoping everyone there is safe and can get out safely. And again, make sure you can count on us right here on Atlanta News First as Hurricane Helene makes its way across our area. Again, this is not nearly over yet. If you lose power, you can still watch us on our Atlanta News First app. And of course, if you can do this safely, we want to get your perspective too from what you're seeing. If you can safely do it, send us pictures and video. We're just trying to, you know, recount everything that's going on across the metro, and you are able to help us do that with pictures and video. Again, do not put yourself at risk when you do it, but if you're able to send those to us, we'd certainly appreciate it. You can send them and text them straight to the number on your screen at 470-777 WANF.
And in the meantime, we're going to want you to join us right back here on ANF Plus at 2 a.m. We're going to be following up all these situations for you and getting the latest from our team of meteorologists still tracking this storm and the wind that is still on the way. Our live First Alert weather coverage of Hurricane Helene will continue then at 2.